years ago, I was approached by the president, and he said that at the job summit the year before, the various stakeholders said that the transition of the South African economy from a high carbon economy to a low carbon economy is something which the stakeholders did not think should be left only to the government, that it should be something that everybody participates in developing the strategy and participates in implementing and making happen. And therefore, that job summit had recommended that a national commission should be set up, chaired by the president. So the president called me and said, you know, when I chair a commission, I normally appoint a deputy chair who does the work. So I said to him, as you know, Mr. President, I'm in blissful retirement. I've got lots of retirement activities. I'm not looking for a job. He says, well, that's very fortunate because this is not a job. We're not going to pay you for it, so it's not a job. And then he sent Minister Creasy to persuade me. She knows me from young days, and she persuaded me to do this thing. And I'm pleased that I had undertaken this task, because it's a wonderful, wonderful forum that we have that brings together government and the NGOs and civil society, the trade union movement and business to talk about how we do this transition. And it's a great platform from which government can consult with everybody else, and a great platform where everybody else can give government their views and their advice on this matter. Because when you talk about epoch-making transitions, that it is really something that cannot be managed. It's not something that can be managed by a CEO or a president or a government administration. These are things that are going to happen anyway. This economy, like the global economy, is going to move away from a high greenhouse gas emissions economy to a low emissions economy. It is going to happen. So the one good news for all of you that are worried about it, don't worry, it is going to happen. The thing that, of course, most of us should be very worried about is the pace at which it happens and the manner in which it happens. If it happens too slowly, it's going to cause devastation and suffering for lots of people, and it's going to damage the planet in a manner that would be irreparable, and future generations will not forgive us for sitting on our backsides when we could see this happening. On the other hand, if it happens in a disorganized way, then you could well have the transition happening in a manner which does not take into account the need for economic growth, the need for social equity, does not take into account the fact that if we don't do it in a planned way, many, many people can lose their jobs. And of course, in South Africa, we're talking about in Mpumalanga, people can lose their jobs, families can lose their livelihoods, children are going to suffer, and those sorts of things. So if we don't plan it, because it is going to happen in any case, it can happen in a manner which is unjust. And therefore, we've got this forum, the Presidential Climate Change Commission, which tries to ensure that we do it in an organized way. And so you would recall that we gave very careful thought to what are the targets that we can set for ourselves, taking into account all these considerations. And we came up with the nationally determined contributions. Even that, we couldn't fix ourselves, and we didn't want to, and we were not required to fix to a particular target, but rather to a band, to an upper limit and lower limit. And that gives us the pace at which we would go, which all of us, as society as a whole in South Africa, we're comfortable with that. The government has informed the United Nations about it and those sorts of things. So that was a big achievement. But how do we move from there? That's what